So you're thinking of moving to Las Vegas? Is it a buyer's market or seller's market? And what difference does that make? In this video, we're going to go in depth on whether or not it's a buyer's market or seller's market and what it means to you. So let's get after it right now. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about moving to Las Vegas, living in Las Vegas, or the general Las Vegas real estate market, go ahead and hit subscribe, tap that bell for notifications, and you'll be the first in the know for everything that's happening here in the Las Vegas area. Hi, my name's Anthony. I'm a former attorney turned real estate professional, and my team and I get phone calls, texts, and emails every day from people just like you looking to make your move to Las Vegas, and we absolutely love it. Look, if you're looking to make your move in the next 9 to 90 days, go ahead and shoot me a text, give me a call, send me an email, and we'll be happy to take care of you and make your move as smooth as possible. So, as I said, today we're going to talk about buyer's market, seller's market, and which one we're in here in the Las Vegas area and what it actually means to you. In its most basic form, buyer's market versus seller's market is all about supply and demand. When demand is high and supply is low, you're going to see prices that rise very quickly and go up in order to offset the supply versus the demand. And that's what we've been seeing for the last 2 years here. We've seen a super seller's market here for the last 2 years. Super high rates of appreciation in prices over those 2 years. In fact, 20+% year-over-year growth for the past 2 years. And we've seen limited inventory. So we've been in a seller's market for the last 2 years. A buyer's market, conversely, is when there's more homes for sale than there are buyers. So you have too much inventory and not enough demand. So too much supply, not enough demand. And in those cases, what you'll find is called a buyer's market. And here, the buyers have the advantage. So they can pay a little bit less for a house. They can pay under listing. You're not going to see those multiple offer scenarios that we've been seeing for the last 2 years. You're going to see the ability to get more house, more features, more amenities for the same price that you would in a seller's market or a balanced market. Now there's the third market, the unicorn market, the balanced market. And that is when there are exactly the number of buyers that there are to homes on the market. So basically there's one good buyer for every one good house for sale. So you find there you have parity in the pricing, and one side versus the other doesn't get the advantage, and you get the true fair market price for a home. When you're in a seller's market, the seller has a bit of an advantage, and when you're in the buyer's market, you have more of a buyer's advantage, and then you get a little bit better price. The whole thought of a balanced market is a very momentary thing. It does not happen and it does not stay there for long. However, in a buyer's market or a seller's market, you can stay in those for a long period of time depending on which side of the pendulum you're at. A good analogy is to think of it like going to the grocery store and buying milk. If the grocery store has 10 gallons of milk for sale, but there are 50 people who want to buy that milk, they're able to charge a higher price for those gallons of milk because there's not enough to meet the demand. There's not enough supply to meet the demand. That's a seller's market for milk. Conversely, a buyer's market is when there's 5 people that are in the market for those 10 gallons of milk. The grocery store has to say, hey gosh, we have these 10 gallons of milk that are going to spoil, that are going to go bad, and we won't be able to do anything with them, and we need to get them off of our shelves. So we'll reduce the price of the milk and see if the buyers will buy up that milk. And that's how we get things like, you buy more milk than you thought, so you could do your Instagram recipes, your Pinterest recipes, and all those other TikTok videos that we've been doing for the last couple of years during the pandemic. But it's a good illustration of if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. Now, the balanced market would be if there were 10 people looking for 10 gallons of milk you would come to a fair price. The market, the true market price, is when it is balanced like that. But you'll see how fragile a balanced market is when a new family moves in with 5 cereal eaters. Now all of a sudden you have 10 gallons of milk and 15 people that want gallons of milk. So we switch over, we don't have enough supply and we have too much demand, and all of a sudden the price of milk goes up because there's not enough supply to meet the demand. Now, going the other way, you have 10 of those people move out of town. Now you've only got 5 milk drinkers again and 10 gallons of milk. So you see how, depending on how things fluctuate, that's how the market goes. And we're always in a state of flux, a state of unbalance. And it's very rare that we remain in a balanced market for any lengthy period of time. Unlike the inflationary period that we're in now, the balanced market is truly transitory. These same laws of supply and demand, when we were talking about milk prices, that works the same exact way in the real estate market. And look, I get it. Your home is super important to you. It's super personal. You know, we take pride in our homes. But when we look at it from the economics point of view, from a macro view, from a 10,000 foot view, they're houses. They are what we call inventory in real estate, okay? When there's too little supply and too much demand, the prices go up. When there's too much supply and not enough demand, the prices go down. And you're always trying to find that equilibrium, that balanced market that is really transitory, really only lasts for a very short period of time. And we're always, for the most part, going to be either tilted to the seller side or tilted to the buyer side. But that's okay. Let's talk about how you determine in real estate if we're in a buyer's market or a seller's market. So there's a couple concepts that you need to know in order to figure this out. The first thing that you need to know is the number of homes sold during a time period. Now, in general, we use a time period of 12 months, and that's just the standard economic model of looking at it. Now, as things become more volatile and there's more changes in the market factors, you shorten that time period. So when we're looking at a fairly, stable market, we can look at a 12-month time period. But if we're looking at a time period when there's a lot of changes, we need to shorten that time and look at things. Let's just take Las Vegas, for example. Over the past 12 months, the past 12 full months from when we're shooting this video, there were just over 37,000 single family home sales here in the Las Vegas MLS system. All right, so that gives us our number of homes sold during the 12-month period. Then we have to take that and we have to find what's called in real estate the absorption rate. Now, the absorption rate is simply over that time period that we're looking at, how many homes are sold on a monthly basis. And if you take that 12 months divided by the 37,000, then the number comes to about 3,111 homes sold per month over the last 12 full months that we have data for. So that is our absorption rate. You can count on there being about 3,100 home sales per month over the time frame. And as we look into the future here, so we have our total home sales for the time period, 37,000-ish, our absorption rate, 3,100. Now the third piece that you need to look at is how many homes, how much supply is there currently on the market. And this, so the other two were about the demand. This is about the supply. So right now, currently, this is the end of June that we're shooting this in 2022. You have about 5,200 to 5,250 homes available on the market right now. So that's your supply. So we look at that and we say there are 5,200-ish homes. We sell 3,100 per month on average when you look at the last 12 months. That means we have about 1.6 to 1.7 months of inventory on the market. Now, what's important about that? So, how you define a buyer's market, seller's market, and balanced market. A balanced market is 6 months of inventory, A seller's market is anything under 6 months of inventory, while a buyer's market is anything over 6 months of inventory. So right now, when we just did our calculations, we had 1.6 to 1.7 months of inventory. So we look at here and we go, oh gosh, we're on the seller's market side, okay? In order to get to the buyer's market, remember we need to have 7 months worth of inventory. So let's just take our example of 3,100 homes that were sold, the absorption rate. You would need 21,000 homes on the market to be in a buyer's market. Right now we have 5,240-ish. So we're still clearly on the seller's market side. But let's look at this a little bit different. Let's look at, we know that things have been volatile here for the past couple months. Interest rates have gone up. Inflation has gone up. Some things are changing in the market, and we're getting a lot of doom and gloom predictions of what's going to happen to the market. So let's just look at the last 2 months and do our calculation a little bit different and see over those past 2 months, have things really changed that much? So over the past 2 months, we had just under 5,800 homes sold during those 2 months. So you'll see if we look at, then we divide that number by 2 and it comes out to about 2,700 homes per month. So our actual number of sales, our absorption rate has gone down a little bit, and we still have on the supply side 5,240-ish homes. So we went up a little bit. Now it's just a little bit. We're at like 1.8, between 1.8 and 1.9 as far as the months of inventory. Now you go, oh man, 1.8 to 1.9 months, that's, that's a lot of inventory, or it's, we are still in the seller's market. But let's compare that to where we were just a couple months ago. A couple of months ago, we went month after month after month after month here with 2 to 3 weeks, under 1 month of inventory. And we stayed there for several months where we had less than 1 month worth of inventory during that time. And that's when you saw the super craziness that went on in this market, where you would have a home that went on the market, got listed, and had 30 offers in the first 6 hours of being on the market. The sellers could pretty much name their price. But now that we're getting a little bit out of that range and we're getting more towards that balanced side, we're still a long way from balanced and a long way from buyer's market. We see some more parity in what's going on. So now, instead of 30 offers for a home, you're seeing that there's 5 offers for a home, and you can be more competitive. It doesn't take so long, and it never took a long time for us. But a lot of people had a lot of trouble because they didn't know how to compete with 30 offers and how to compete to get that sale. And that's where you have to strategize and analyze and make sure that you know your numbers when you're doing these things. And that's why these numbers are so important. Look, I don't expect you to become a master at this, but I want you to know the fundamentals. I want you to be a smart consumer and know that when we go out for you, we look at all these numbers. We think about these numbers, and when we create an offer, we're making an offer to win. There's several strategies that we do, but one of the important things that we look at is these types of numbers to see, okay, what does our offer have to look like in order to be successful? And it also means that you don't have to monkey around too much when you know the numbers better and you're not shooting blind. And that's what happens with a lot of people, and that's what happens when you get some people who don't recognize these numbers, don't understand the market, don't understand the economics. Look, I'm a former attorney, but I also have a degree in finance and economics. So I truly understand supply and demand pretty well. And I know how to look at the numbers in addition to everything else to make sure that when you make your offer, you're making a solid offer. But let's be serious here. We are still in the seller's market. And yes, we're trending towards a buyer's market. So the real question is, do I see a buyer's market coming anytime soon? Is there going to be a true buyer's market anytime soon? Maybe, but I'm going to say it's not going to be for quite a while. And let me tell you why. There's a lot of interdependent factors, whether or not it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. And yes, interest rates are going up, and that is slowing the rate of home sales a little bit. However, people still have to move, and they have to change jobs, and they want to get out of a place that is exorbitantly high and move to a better situation. For example, here in Las Vegas, where we have great quality of life, no state income taxes, all the things that make Las Vegas amazing for your families, all the way to whatever your situation is. It is a fantastic place to live. We are predicting that the Las Vegas population growth is going to be about 1% a year for the foreseeable future. What that means is we're supposed to add about 25,000 new residents here every year. That's a lot of people, especially when you consider that we had 38,000 home sales in the last 12 months. Adding 25,000 new people here means a lot more homes need to be built, a lot more homes need to be sold. And our builders, they're doing a fantastic job of trying to keep up with that demand. But there's another thing that happened, and that is just as important, and why the supply side is still going to be constrained pretty much no matter how much building they do here if you're looking to buy a house. And that is the fact, for the past several years, when the Fed was monkeying with monetary policy, when the interest rates were extremely low, when all of the goofiness that was going on over the last 2 years that led to 20% plus appreciation in home prices year over year. What happened was investors, hedge funds, big money came into the Las Vegas area and started buying up all of the properties indiscriminately. And that led to a lot of that 20% plus year over year growth. And why? It's because when the investor, a big hedge fund, comes in and buys a property here, they buy it, they hold it, and they rent it out for a long period of time. It could be 5 years, could be 10 years, could be even longer than that. So what that does, and they bought a lot of homes over the past couple of years. What that does is it takes those properties that would normally be part of the supply, and it takes them out of that supply pool, because those homes aren't going to be on the market for another 5 to 10 plus years. So our supply, we have the population growth, and then because we can't build enough to support, and the investors came in, our supply has dwindled. And we're going to keep in a constrained supply situation for quite some time. So we're probably going to stay tilted, and it's going to get a little bit better. It's not going to be the 2-week period that we had before, but we're still going to be tilted towards the seller side of the equation here for quite some time to come. Will there be another buyer's market here in Las Vegas? Yes. You're always going to go through the cycles of buyer's market and seller's market. But other factors came in and changed the equations quite a bit as far as what's available to buy and what's going to come available versus what people are looking for. We're for the foreseeable future, even with high interest rates, even with inflation, we're going to see more people that are looking to move to Las Vegas, and they're going to need housing, which means that we don't have enough supply for the demand that is continuing, and I see continuing for the foreseeable future here. You know, and granted, anything can happen. There's what are called black swan events, and that's something that you didn't expect come out of nowhere. It's kind of like the pandemic. You know, we were humming along just fine, doing great, and then the pandemic hit and everything turned up. That is a black swan event. But taking that out of the equation, you are going to be in a seller's market for quite some time, regardless of the inflation, regardless of the interest rates. You're still going to see a lack of supply versus the demand that's out there. And you need to know that, and you're who you work with, and when you make offers on buying a house, you need to know those so you go in with eyes wide open and good expectations of what to expect, what to do, good strategies so that you can secure a home that is perfect for you for the long term. Now, that brings up the question, should you rent or should you buy? Well, I don't see that market crash, and I implore you, please go and watch my market crash video where I go into depth on this. It's a great video and it breaks down my thoughts on this as to why we're not going to see a big market crash. We're going to see a flattening of the home appreciation to a more historical level of the 3 to 5% per year rate. So if we're going to stay at that 3 to 5% per year appreciation rate in home prices, why would you go rent, even with high inflation prices? You are paying the investors or your landlord, you are paying for their equity. That same money, even when it's expensive in comparison to the 2 to 3% rates that we had before, it's still a better alternative to make that money work for you and to at least keep up with inflation in that money, rather than just, it's basically just burning the money when you give it to your landlord. You have to have a place to live. It does not make sense, even now, to rent versus buy. So even in a seller's market, it doesn't make sense. If you have the ability. If you don't have the ability, that's totally understandable. And you know what? We've got great people. I've got a great team here that can help with your rental, as well as we help, a lot of people relocate here, sell their homes here. We help a lot of people in the Las Vegas area and make this their home. And we do it smart and we do it strategically to get you both the best deal and be successful in getting your offers approved. So I know that was a little convoluted. I would suggest that you go back and watch this another time or so. There's a lot of information in here, and I don't mean for it to be overwhelming. It's just, there is a lot that goes into thinking about your offer when you're making it and looking at all these numbers, the absorption rate, the inventory, how many, what time period should you use when you're calculating your absorption rate. All of those factors need to be considered. Additionally, we looked at those numbers on the MLS as a total here in Las Vegas. Each neighborhood, each price point, each type of property has their own set of inventory, absorption rate, number of sales over the past X period of time. And when you're smart about looking at what your offer should be, how much you should pay, is it a good deal? Are you overpaying or are you overbidding? Two distinct concepts there. And that's one of the things that you need to know when you're making your offers. So like I said, please go watch my market crash video. Watch it together with this one again, and between the two of them, you will start to have a good grasp on the economics of the real estate market here in Las Vegas and where we are for the foreseeable future. Let me just bullet point it again. We are in a seller's market. It's a little bit better seller's market than it was and a little bit closer to the buyer side, but we still have a long way to go to this to get to be a buyer's market. And because of some of the external factors, especially when it comes to supply availability here in Las Vegas, I do not see us moving to a buyer's market for quite some time. It will happen, but I don't see it happening anytime in the near future. So I hope that I kind of explained some of this. And I get really passionate about this stuff because I love this stuff. Like I said, my degree is in finance and economics, so I love looking at these numbers in a different way than a lot of people look at them. So I hope that helps. I hope I gave you some valuable information. If you have questions or comments, go ahead and let me know below. Hey, if you want to look at something, if you want to know about certain things, my contact information is in the comments and the description below. I'd love to help you. My team would love to help you, and we'll get you into your perfect place here in Las Vegas, and we'll make it as smooth as possible. So if I don't see you in the neighborhood, I'll see you on the next video, and thanks for watching.